You're about to make a leaderboard that every player can look at to check each other's score as they play your game. As you go through this tutorial, always remember to pause and rewind as you need to so that you don't miss a single step. We're going to start somewhere brand new, and that's the server script service. So scroll down to where you see server script service, and we're going to mouse over it and go to the gray plus sign, click it, and create a new script. Backspace the hello world that's in there at the start. And the very first thing we're going to do is use a built-in event, just like the touched event from the last video, but this one runs every time a player is added to our game. So you do that by writing game.players.playerAdded:connect and then parentheses. And we can actually write our function inside connect here. So write function with these parentheses and then end. And now whatever gets put in here runs every time a new player joins our game. And just like how the touched event from the last video created a variable that showed us what hit it, player added creates a variable for whatever player just joined the game. So in our function, we can write player and down here print player to see that variable that gets created. And when you hit play, you'll see your name print down here because you're the only player that's joined your game so far. Before you stop it, let's go to our Explorer window and click into players. You'll see your player name, and inside it you'll see a backpack and some other stuff about your player. You can actually add your own things in here, and that's how you save a player's score, money, experience points, stuff like that. These are essentially variables that we give to each player when they join so that each player can have their own. So we want to add a new variable that's a number to save our score. So let's stop it and go into our script, and we'll do just that. So the first thing we want to do is create a new variable called score by writing local score equals, and this is something we haven't done before, we write instance.new, put parentheses, and then quotation marks, and then capital N number value. There we go. We'll understand what this line does in a couple more seconds. But before that, let's make this variable a child of our parent. So we can do that by saying score, which is the variable we just created, dot parent equals, and then we'll set it to our player, which is the player variable that gets created by our player added event. And right now, that'll be just our player. So let's hit play and see what this is doing. And so if we go to our players window over here and click into here, we see this new thing that's in here that wasn't before called value. That's the variable we just created. So if we go to stop, this instance.new is creating a new number variable, and we can actually change its name if we go in here and write score.name equals, and then whatever we want. So let's just say cash for now and see it run. So if we go under players and click into our name, and see, it's now named cash. So what we've done is created a special variable here that we can actually assign to whatever we want. In this case, we've chosen to assign it to the player by setting it as the child of the player or setting the player as the parent. We've also, on this line, named the variable cash, and we can name it whatever we want. So if we wanted each player to start with 500 cash, we could actually, on a new line, put score.value equals, and then whatever value we want. Let's just say 500. And now when we hit play, we go under players, we go to our name, and when we click on cash, we can see down here, the value says 500. You'll see how to use this more later, but we'll actually set the name to score and the value to 0 just to keep it simple. Above this, we're going to create a folder with the exact same process that we used to create the variable. So let's create a couple new lines by hitting enter. We write local leader stats equals instance new dot folder. This is going to create a folder just like these ones in our workspace. Just like we changed the name of our score variable and its value down here, we're going to do the same with our leader stats folder. So we write leader stats dot name equals leader stats, lowercase l. It doesn't matter what we name our variable here in our code. We have to set it like this, otherwise it doesn't show up properly in the game. And just like we did with the score, we want to set our parent to the player. And now this folder is going to show up inside our player right next to our score. So go into players and see we had our score and we got this folder called leader stats. Okay, but we actually want our score inside leader stats so that we can see it, so that our stat is public. Instead of setting the score's parent to player down here, we're actually going to set the score's parent to our leader stats folder. So we do that by writing leader stats instead of player. Now we hit run, we check our players, leader stats, our score is inside it, perfect. And now our leaderboard is showing up here. You see my name and my score. And if we created a new variable just as a demonstration, name it points, we see that our points also show up in here. So any stats that we make and set the parent to leader stats are going to show up in that public leaderboard. So I'm gonna leave it with just score right now. You just finished making your very first leaderboard. You added a variable to each player that allows us to store and use their score. In the next part, we're gonna focus on updating the score so it actually works. So keep going with the series to make a fully finished game.